What's up, my nigga? What's up, my nigga? What's up?
Welcome back to Boss Talk 843 Reacts. This is the place that's going to get you the best dang reaction every single dang time. And today I have another topic for you guys, and the topic is going to be called America. And I'm going to show you guys a lot of clips of the way people feel about America right now, and certain things that's going on in the world pertaining to America. So you guys pay attention, man, and if it's on your heart to try to figure out what's going on out here, just pay attention and take notes, and it'll give you the feeling of what you need to do next. But let's watch these videos, and I'll get right back to you guys. But first, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and hit that ding ding bell button for your boy, so you get all the newest notifications when I drop new videos, all right? So here we go.
America going through a nervous breakdown because now you got BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
Yes.
They've decided to no longer use the American dollar as the medium of exchange for the business they do with each other.
Okay.
That's reducing the America's dollar's influence on the global market. So America now trying to get back into Africa and improve relationships with Africa to try to stave off China and Russia,
Yes, sir.
undermining the American economy. That's why Donald Trump was indicted the other day. It's no coincidence Donald Trump got indicted on the same day that BRICS decided we're no longer using the American dollar as the medium of exchange. The reason they can't have Donald Trump as the next president is Donald Trump is too aggressive, too racist, too hostile, too imperialist. They don't need that right now. They needed that during his first term. But this term, they need somebody who's going to be a little bit more amenable to building relationships with black people around the world, not destroying them. Donald Trump would not be good for what America needs over the next 10 years, and that's why he got indicted. They're going to try to keep him out the race. They need somebody who's going to play ball with Africa to try to keep Africa from falling into the hands of the Russians and the Chinese.
Now, you guys, and that's something to look into. Look into that BRICS, BRICS, and what's going on with that in the world. You know, because that's very important right now. You know, these nations want to just drop the American dollar. And don't ever think America can't fall, because we've been living in here our whole lives. And it just seems like we're just the top notch. We're the protectors of the world. Everything goes through America, which is not true. So just look into that for yourself and just do your research, all right?
But especially America is depressing as fuck.
A lot of people are feeling depressed these days, and my theory about it is because we're living in late-stage capitalism. In late-stage capitalism, we experience an exponential rise in, fascism. The two are linked. Income inequality, police brutality, the climate crisis, it's all linked back to capitalism. Our misery comes from the fact that many of us now are starting to wake up and realize no matter how hard we work, we will never ever secure a future for ourselves in this land. So it's been going on for a long time. It happened to my father and his father before him. This system of capitalism doesn't work for us, and it's not going to work for you either, and it has to be upended. And until we do find a way to do that, I think the rates of depression are just going to keep on going up.
Americans are leaving the United States en masse. 2022, more Americans left the United States than in the prior 5 years combined.
So I don't necessarily agree with the language that Americans are leaving en masse. We immigrate much less than people in other countries do. And of course, it's increasing now that the pandemic is over. But I do agree that we are beginning to see movement of people leaving the U.S. I think people are souring on the U.S., and I think that they are starting to realize that life could be better elsewhere. It is hard to leave the U.S. First of all, it's a big, huge, sprawling country with endless things to see and do. But more than that, I think it's like the Truman Show, where we are raised to believe that there are things to fear outside of every border. If you've never lived abroad, tell me you aren't at least a little bit afraid of the unknown. On top of that, we typically don't speak a second language, and English-speaking countries are the most expensive to live in and the most difficult to move to. Finally, most of us are trapped in underpaying jobs that keep us from being able to travel, or we wear golden handcuffs in high-paying jobs. It's hard and scary, and in a lot of ways, it's even mundane and boring to move abroad. There is endless bureaucracy and red tape, but I think the math is changing to make it worth the effort, and that's why you're going to see more and more people leaving, maybe even en masse. Find out what country you should move to at expatsy.com.
I am literally on the cusp of really just giving the fuck up. I'm so exhausted of pretending to be okay and then people still demanding me to be more, to be bigger, to be better for their own personal enjoyment, but not for my own mental fucking health. I find it very exhausting as a woman, as a black woman, as a queer black woman, to have to be everything for everybody. Women want me to be their best friend and confidant and their advice giver and leech all of my energy to bring them joy. Men want me to give them seduction. They want me to smile. They want me to only give the right answers and allow them to be in charge. Society wants me to shut up, go to work, be quiet, do as I'm told. My family wants me to be a support system, consistently giving all of myself as if I haven't become a completely new person since I've been an adult. My boss needs me to be attentive, detail-oriented, focused, as if the world around me isn't completely crumbling into shit and I don't have enough money to pay my goddamn bills or clean water to drink in some areas of America, and then we still have to just smile and pretend like everything's okay. I just have to give too much. It's too fucking much, and I'm really tired. I have this constant need for escapism because I'm trying to bleed out of the skin of capitalist, individualist society, but I am sucked back in because I'm forced to, and I'm really about to quit on y'all and leave this fucking place. I want to leave. I want to leave America. I want to leave corporate world. I want to leave the idea of how I should be a woman. I just want to be. I just want to be without any transcriptions of how I should be. Can I do that without any stipulations of anyone getting pissed about what I can and cannot do? That's what I want to do. And I'm about to do that shit, and I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks.
Unconfirmed.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
Did it have anything to do with your visit?
Today we can definitively say that the Gaddafi regime has come to an end.
The world is a better place with Gaddafi gone.
Gaddafi succeeded to rule Libya for over 42 years because he managed to gain support of many Libyan tribes by providing them with free water, almost free gasoline, free health system, as well as cheap and affordable education. 1. In Libya, there was no payment for electricity during Gaddafi's reign. Electricity was free for all citizens. Fuel, education, and healthcare were almost free, or close to nothing for most Libyans to afford. 2. With an excellent management of oil revenues, the Libyan state had managed to store hundreds of tons of about 143 tons of gold, according to WikiLeaks, and the same amount of silver. All these resources were going to make Libya the most influential country in Africa, supplanting France, for instance. 3. There were no interest on loans in Libyan banks and state-owned financial enterprises. Loans were given at 0% interest rate by law. 4. Living in a house was a must-have issue for all Libyans. Gaddafi even vowed that his parents would not get a house until everyone in Libya had one. In fact, having a house in Libya was considered a human right. 5. All newly wedded couples in Libya received money from the government to build their new apartments. 6. Necessities were given out freely or at very affordable prices to Libyans to better their lives, amongst others. All these were seen as provocative and dictatorial to those who were not in support of Gaddafi's projects, which at the end culminated to some fighting and subsequent killing of the revolutionary leader of Libya. All these other reasons why Gaddafi was killed are gotten from the Muslim Times media source. Gaddafi even carried out the world's largest irrigation project in Libya, the Great Malian River. This project utilized giant pipes to send fresh water from the Nubian sandstone aquifer system Fossil Aquifer across Libya, and was fully funded by the Libyan government. No loans from the IMF or China. Unfortunately, NATO forces intentionally and under strict orders destroyed this irrigation system, and even went further to destroy the factory where the pipes for this project were manufactured. This was a project that was aimed at helping Libyans, so why destroy it if your goal is to free the same Libyans? That is how you saw it on this video titled, The Real Reason Why Gaddafi Was Killed.
See, now that's why I stopped following politicians. They're no different than these corporate offices here. Everything is for the company, and the United States is the company. Now, you saw all that good stuff he was doing for his people, and the United States made him out to look like a tyrant, like he was bad to the people, and they ended up killing him because they didn't want the world to see what he was doing for his people and put pressure on them to do the same, being the #1 superpower of the world. They're all about a dollar. They're all about keeping us enslaved through employment, and we would do this to the day we die unless we wake up. Because you got countries on a smaller spectrum doing more for their people than America does for us. So just keep that in mind.
States is sending their vice president to Africa in an attempt to salvage Western relations with the continent, as America hopes to maintain Western influence over the various African nations while slowing down the influence of BRICS. Let's talk about what's happening, why Africa finds the entire world wanting to be their friends, and what this means for business in Africa. This trip from the vice president will include Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia, and follows French President Macron's friendship tour of Africa a few weeks prior. This is clearly a preemptive measure, with the West trying to get ahead of President Putin, who plans to visit Africa to make a major push to align Africa with BRICS later this year. After the Ukraine war created a clear division between the West and Russia, the West realized that Africa aligning itself with BRICS nations would give Russia a major strategic advantage over the West. Thus, the US and France are extremely worried about losing influence with Africa, as China and Russia have made significant inroads in various African nations. If you spent time in Africa, you have likely seen the massive infrastructure projects. The US is hoping to use a charm offensive to convince the African countries to expand their relations with the Western world and reject future infrastructure and business deals from Russia and China. Each side is coming to the African nations with proposals. At this point, we can only speculate, as many of the negotiations are ongoing and all sides are tight-lipped. Nevertheless, let's talk about what offers are likely going to be on the table from the West and from BRICS, and which side is more favorable to business in Africa. The BRICS nations, specifically Russia and China, are likely offering the various African leaders more energy infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, free grain, and help in developing African manufacturing, among other things. In exchange, the BRICS nations are likely looking to continue to establish a business foothold in Africa, receive a revenue stream from the various infrastructure projects through tolls and surcharges, allow BRICS access to the raw resources of the African continent, and of course, the ultimate goal of BRICS may be to cut off Western influence from Africa. The West will likely be a little less transparent. The West will offer foreign aid with strings attached, developmental loans from the World Bank, more American visa lotteries for the African citizens, and implied military protection for the leaders who play nice with Europe and America. In exchange, the U.S. will expect Africa to conform more with Western social norms, allow Western companies access to the African economies, and of course, limit future African involvement with the BRICS nations. This is fundamentally a continuation of the previous relationship the West had with Africa, though perhaps with a nicer tone. On the surface, the BRICS nations appear to be offering a much better deal for the African economies. The infrastructure and nuclear energy deals appear to be game changers without the typical political and social baggage the West pushes. From a business standpoint, it seems BRICS is the winning choice if you are an investor in Africa. But the devil is in the details, and we do not know whether the BRICS nations will maintain a neutral business relationship with Africa indefinitely, or whether they will attempt Western-style political intrigue if BRICS influence becomes more entrenched. Either way, it certainly must be an interesting time to be an African. After centuries of being treated like second-class countries, they now find major powers of the world attempting to win their favor, putting the Africans in a much stronger negotiating position than they enjoyed in the past. I believe this competition for African friendship could lead to better trade deals and more respect for African autonomy. But what do you guys think? Have the trips from the leaders in America and France improved your opinion of Western involvement in Africa? Or should the African nations align more with BRICS? Or do you feel Africa should limit foreign involvement in their economies and develop independently of both the West and BRICS? Let me know in the comments below. I'm very interested in your opinions on this. And as always, if this video...
I don't know if TikTok is going to go for this. And I don't know how to express my sincerity. But when you're 67, 68 years old, sitting up, waiting for an interview, there's something fucking wrong with this goddamn country. I'm tired. I have problems with my knees. I have thyroid condition, all this shit. But America does nothing to stabilize people in this country that can't work, that they're going to force to go back to work. We need a revolution in this country. We need for people to stop doing all these insane things, paying these high rents, high food prices, sending grandmothers and grandfathers back to work. We need to tell America, no, fuck yourself. We can't do this shit no more.
Hey, do you think we could ever have a revolution here in America? I don't think so, man. You know, we love the crumbs too much here. We love the crumbs they give us. As long as we could put on a picture on Facebook of a brand new car saying, God bless me, anything that's, you know, where you could put out there to the public that you're doing a little better than the next man, that's where we get our excitement from. So it'll never be a revolution. A revolution would be like, I don't get paid enough. And on a large scale, many people feel that way, so we just not going in. And we go sacrifice and suffer for a little while till things change. But like I say, you guys are living in too much fear. You don't want to be uncomfortable for nothing. And you're rob, kill, and steal to keep a little something in that bank account. And I do mean a little something. Quit looking at all these celebrities like that's the gauge on how people really live. And you could be there one day in your life. And it's a funny thing with me, you got people 40 and 50 still looking at celebrities and thinking in their head and seeing with their job, oh, I have that one day. Quit lying to yourself. You could be working at that job until you can't work there no more, even until you can't work there no more, unless you're on that deathbed. They're gonna say, come on back in here and get this dollar. So you guys think about that, man. Hey, this is no place and no way to live the rest of your life, especially the latter years of your life. Get your head out that system and understand they're not coming to save you. You're gonna be doing the same thing till your day you die. And you're going to be taking the little happiness, the little things that you can get in between there, and you go put that above everything just to say, I'm happy. Instead of looking at the whole spectrum of the system and understanding your kids go have to deal with it, your grandkids go have to deal with it, their grandkids go have to deal with it. So why not take a stand right now and say, we're not doing this no more? I'm 45 and I'm not doing it no more. Yeah.
One of the things I have come to realize about living in Portugal for almost 3 months, it feels like a breakup from America. Let me explain. If you've ever been in a really unhealthy, toxic relationship, you don't really realize it until you leave that relationship. And you get with someone else who just lights you up. They bring you so much joy. You feel lighter. You're happier. You're not so stressed. And you look back at that last relationship and you're just like, wow, I deserve so much more than that. That's how it feels being away from the US. Sure, no country is perfect. They all have their problems. There's literally a strike almost every day here in Portugal. But what I can say, the people are kind. I can send my daughter to school safely. My mental health is better than it's ever been in my entire life. I'm eating fresh food. I'm getting outside in nature. I'm not in a rush. I have community around me. I have access to good health care. I get to spend time with my family. There isn't much I miss about the US.
What I'm about to show you is arguably the biggest story in the world right now, in my opinion, but it's being totally ignored by the mainstream media. Of course it is. They don't want you to know about it because it will upend the global world order. I'm going to show you all of the new data and the info in a minute. But first, the US just announced they're getting ready for war with China and Russia simultaneously, because we can't just do one without the other, right? See, this is what happens when people start to lose power. They get very dangerous, and the U.S. is quickly losing power. This week, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin announced their new 2024 military budget, which aims directly at China. And get this is unbelievable. It includes a 40% increase in spending to attack China. The Pentagon recently said China is, quote, the most comprehensive and serious challenge to the U.S. national security strategy. Here's Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin pushing for this new China war funding.
This is a strategy-driven budget and one driven by the seriousness of our strategic competition with the People's Republic of China. This budget will help us continue to implement our 2022 National Defense Strategy and the President's National Security Strategy.
So the U.S. national security is under attack because China is becoming an economic superpower. They want you to believe that your house and your backyard are going to have Chinese soldiers in it very soon. This is how they will scare you. Better watch out if you're grilling your backyard barbecue because some Chinese soldiers are about to steal your hot dogs. They really want you to be scared. They're doing a good job of it.
In order to protect the American people, readiness now and readiness in the future through modernization is our number one priority, and there is no other number one. Right now, the international system is under stress. For the first time in our nation's history, the United States is facing two major nuclear powers whose vital national security interests are in competition with the United States.
They are hoping that you'll be scared, so you'll want to go to war to protect your hot dogs or your hamburgers. Even Governor Ron DeSantis is pushing this threat narrative, playing on the fear of a Chinese attack.
My view in terms of U.S. national security is that our number one threat by far is China and the CCP. They're strong militarily, they're strong economically, they've got the largest industrial base in human history, and they have ambitions.
So everyone is on board with this threat, and we need to spend billions more in this new budget to protect you. That's what they're telling you. They're calling it their Pacific Deterrence Initiative. That's the name of it. Deterrence. That's a good one. We're going to deter China and Russia by provoking them in their freaking backyards. The United States this week announced 4 new military bases will be built in the Philippines. The goal of these bases is for war with China. That brings the total number of U.S. military bases to 754 worldwide. Can you imagine? The United States has 754 military bases around the world. Just wrap your heads around that for a moment. But it's all just to deter them. They think we're stupid. The Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Zhang warned earlier this month that if the U.S. doesn't change its course on its military buildup in the Asia-Pacific and other policies aimed at China, it will lead to conflict and confrontation. So Washington has a death wish, and they're going to get us all killed if they don't want to back off. But they won't because of what I'm about to show you, and this is the most important part. So the United States just announced it's getting ready for war with China and Putin at the same time for a very important reason. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin are about to completely alter the international power structure and the monetary system. This is why they're getting ready for war. No other reason. The biggest story in the world happened this week in Moscow, and your mainstream media ignored it. This week, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin signed 14 different documents in their face-to-face meeting. The biggest had to do with trade and currency. It's perhaps the biggest story in the world right now, but again, the U.S. media was obsessed with something else.
He could be days away from becoming the first former president to be indicted.
Donald Trump is under multiple criminal inquiries.
If he's about to be arrested, it almost certainly means he's going to be indicted.
The media wants you distracted from the U.S. banking crisis and the decline of the U.S. dollar. Can you imagine? Probably the most important story in the world happened this week, and it almost got no attention. So let me know in the comments if your newscasts in your local markets covered this story. Probably not.
You're dang straight they'll never cover that. Because they don't want you guys seeing what's really going on. They want us thinking about some guy trapped in the ocean. These guys, these millionaires in the ocean in the submarines. They like us thinking about President Trump getting indicted. Dumb stuff like that. Who cares about who gets indicted from politics and the government? Who freaking cares? All y'all rotten. None of y'all care about what's going on with the next person that's not in y'all league or not on your caliber of life. So who cares? But they do all this and they push it in the media. That's why it's on there all day to keep you guys from really seeing what's going on. They're losing the grip. They're losing their power. And these countries are now looking at them like, hey, y'all bullied us for a long time. We're no longer scared. And let's see what's up. And I think you guys need to tune into that a little more if you're not already tuned into that, all right? All right, let's get on with this.
I am here in Tanzania. I have relocated here because I was called to be here. My ancestors want me to be here, and so I just came. So I'm so happy. I prioritize peace. As a melanated person in the United States, it is way more difficult to be at peace, period. It is even more difficult there because the foundation of that country is to not treat us as human beings. And so that is another reason why I'm here. And it is much easier to be at peace here. It is. I mean, it just is.
ain't no point. I'm dead already. Days are walk through the shadow of death. Hello, mama. I just want to let you know I love you. And I was the one watching porn on your computer. Let's do this.
So I want to respond to this quickly because I need people to understand that one of the reasons that Jamaicans and other African diaspora people react to African Americans and talk about African Americans in a way they do is because this was taught to us by white America. This is part of what I'm studying now in my graduate program. When they first started to recruit people to come to work here, right, about 5 or 6 decades ago, they told them that the African Americans were lazy people and they did not want to work. Meanwhile, at that time, it was because they didn't want to pay African Americans more money. They wanted to give them slavery wages. But African Americans were trying to hold out for more pay. Instead of paying African Americans more, what they did was recruit black people from the Caribbean, at that time controlled by Britain. So it was very easy for them to convince Britain that, hey, send those people who are down there with no jobs to our country to work. And when they came here, the white farm owners and those agricultural people told them and ingrained in them that the reason that they have to come to work is because African Americans don't want a job. Right? They went back home and they carried the same message and told the people there. And so this is a trope that has been passed on for decades and decades, year after year, as more and more come. That is what they carry because that's what they have been told. Now, when you come and you live amongst African Americans, and if you really look into the history and look at the systemic racism, you'll know that is not true. But then you also realize how difficult it is when someone grew up and was taught a certain kind of saying or a certain kind of belief. It's very difficult to get it out of them. So I know that it is not true. I know that it's because people want decent wages for the work that they do. But yeah, it is absolutely true that a lot of Caribbean people, Jamaicans included, and other diaspora people have bought into this trope that African Americans are lazy.
Hey, the mental brainwashing started a long time ago. So it's hard to break that because they've been teaching us little subtle stuff since we came out the womb. They've been teaching us little subtle stuff, and when you get a certain age, it's already just locked in here. They teach us how to be biased towards each other. They teach us how we treat each other, how we react towards each other. And if you don't break that, you don't look inside yourself and understand they taught us this, you'll never escape the plantation, man. You'll never escape the plantation because you can always look at them as having all the answers, the keys to every door, when it's the other way around. All right.
What's going on? Yep. So yeah, I wanted to talk about, the depression that I felt when I came back to America after being in Africa for a couple months. So when I got back to America, I was super excited to let everybody know that I witnessed this functioning black society. And, there were black people getting along. It wasn't no fights, no arguments, no road rage. And, and I was back, like the second day I got back, I went to the gas station. And I just want to say it wasn't no homeless people in Africa. It wasn't no homeless people there. I didn't witness nobody homeless. So I got back, I went to the gas station, and this guy, I went in the gas station, he was asking me, can he get $1? He hungry. So in Africa, like somebody did ask me for money before, but they was always selling something. Like they'll be like, I got these glasses, man, I'm hungry, but can you buy these glasses or whatever? So that's the type of stuff people like was asking for in Africa. So the guy asked me for $1. So black guy too. So I came back out the store and I gave him $5, and he broke down and started crying. And it was like, it hit me like, wow, we in America, we make so much money here that no black person should be messed up. Like no black person should be broke. We should all have access to capital, access to money. And, over the next 2 months that I ended up being in America, I fell into like a deep depression because I felt like I couldn't get out, or tell people what I witnessed. So that's what made me started TikTok in the first place, and you know, start talking about it and start this Free Energy Society. You know, we always talk about unity in this country, and it's hard to talk about unity when most of us have never even witnessed unity. Like, we never witnessed, you know, us as unified as black people, so we don't know what it looked like. But it's so easy, you know what I'm saying? It's easy as, you know, if all the black people in America say, yo, we're gonna invest $10 into building something, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't want to build in America, and I get it. So we could buy land anywhere. Like, we are global people. Like, we could all get passports and buy land somewhere else. It's real easy to buy land in other places. Like, there's other people doing it. There's Chinese doing it. The Russians are doing it. You know what I'm saying? The Eastern Europeans are out buying land and, you know, all over the world. Like, we can do that. We need to come together and make it happen, because things in America is not going to get better. Y'all think it's going to get better. Y'all think y'all can change the system from the inside. The system is rotten. You know what I'm saying? And it's never going to fix itself. And people do not respect us here. Like, they do not like us. They do not respect us. So
the reason why NATO's army is on the doorstep of Russia is because we moved, not Russia. And it's just obvious that we're the bad guys. The United States are the world's terrorists. We have 1,000 military bases. You know, we have 400 military bases surrounding China since the Korean War. We just added 3 new military bases in the Philippines. They just announced 2 weeks ago. This is how all empires end. We're overextending militarily while we have people living under every bridge. People don't have health care, a living wage. Half the country can't afford a $500 emergency. 80% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. 50% of wage earners earn $30,000 or less. People go bankrupt when they get sick in this country. We have homeless people everywhere, and that's because our government is 100% corrupted. It's the people think that it's corrupted, like, oh, Joe Biden gave his kid a no-show job on a Ukraine energy board, or Donald Trump gave his kid a deal with the Saudi. No. That's regular corruption. I'm talking about 100%. Everything the government does, it only does it because of corruption. And that's the only way the wheels get greased, is through corruption. That's why we can send $100 billion to Ukraine without any oversight, and we still won't send it to our own cities to fix our homelessness or our bridges that those homeless people are living under. We won't even fix our own goddamn country. So people don't realize that this is pretty much a banana republic. We're at the end. This is the end of this empire. We're basically Brazil with a couple of big cities that are keeping it afloat.
You think so?
Yeah.
You believe that?
Yes. Yeah. Well, when half the country can't afford a $500, this is what I like to say. What do you call a system that takes the richest country the face of the earth has ever seen and renders half of its population poor or low income? You call that a failed system. And that's what we're living in. And people think we're going to be able to vote our way out of this. What we have to do is get people in the streets. So when someone like AOC has 13 million Twitter followers and Bernie Sanders has, they're supposed to tell people to get in the street, shut stuff down, protest, and take our government back. But they won't, because they're part of the system. And that's what I'm trying to wake people up. It's worse off having people like Bernie Sanders and AOC in the Democratic Party in government, even though Bernie claims he's an independent. He's a Democrat. And why is it worse? Because it gives people the false impression that there's somebody actually fighting for you in government, and there isn't.
So okay.
And the only way you can have change, you get people into the streets, is when they lose faith in the system. And we have to get them, we have to disabuse them of the idea that there is somebody fighting for them in this system, and there isn't.
So if you
have you ever wondered why our political system is so broken?
I'm going to be the bad guy, which I'm sure half the room would agree with anyway. And I want to get away with as much bad things as possible, ideally to enrich myself and advance my interest. I've enlisted all of you as my co-conspirators. So you're going to help me legally get away with all of this. On a campaign that is entirely funded by corporate political action committees. Is there anything that legally prevents me from doing that?
No.
Okay, so there's nothing stopping me from being entirely funded by corporate PACs, say from the fossil fuel industry, the healthcare industry, big pharma. I'm entirely 100% lobbyist PAC, and let's say I have some skeletons in my closet that I need to cover up so that I can get elected. Green light for hush money. I can do all sorts of terrible things. It's totally legal right now for me to pay people off, and that is considered speech. Use my special interest dark money funded campaign to pay off folks that I need to pay off and get elected. So now I'm elected, now I'm in, I've got the power to draft, lobby, and shape the laws that govern the United States of America. Any hard limit that I have in terms of what legislation I'm allowed to touch? Are there any limits on the laws that I can write?
There's no limit.
So there's none. So I can be totally funded by oil and gas. I can be totally funded by Big Pharma, come in, write Big Pharma laws, and there's no limits to that whatsoever.
That's right.
Next thing I want to do is get rich with as little work possible. That's really what I'm trying to do as the bad guy, right? So is there anything preventing me from holding stocks, say, in an oil or gas company, and then writing laws to deregulate that industry and cause, that could potentially cause the stock value to soar and accrue a lot of money in that time?
You could do that.
So I could do that. I could do that now with the way our current laws are set up. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Is it possible that any elements of this story apply to our current government and our current public servants right now?
Yes.
Yes.
So we have a system that is fundamentally broken. We have these influences existing in this body, which means that these influences are here in this committee shaping the questions that are being asked of you all right now. Would you say that that's correct,
Yes.
Mr. Marabani or Mr. Schaub?
Yes.
This video is for anybody who maybe for the first time is looking at the Ohio derailment and how they've handled that and how bad it is for people. And maybe they're starting to realize that they might not be able to trust the government. Let me tell you where I started. For me, it started in the food industry looking at the ingredient red number 40. Almost every other country had banned it, but yet we still had not. Well, we're supposed to be the most developed. So when you dig into this, you find that there is people inside of the government that get to control what industries are allowed to put into their food. And that person who's the head of the FDA or in the FDA usually rotates his actual job. His career is, I'm in the FDA, and then 5 years later, I'm in one of the big manufacturing companies that manufactures all the crap that I made it legal for you to be able to do. And there's a rotating door that goes back and forth between that position. Having that rotating door going back and forth allows for massive profit on their side. Corporations and people that are in high-level positions in the government, and it usually goes to your detriment. They do the same thing with the pharmaceutical company. A guy will be in charge of something at the FDA. They allow for something from a pharmaceutical company that would otherwise not pass the sniff test because it's bad for me and you, but it makes them a lot of money. And then 5 years later, they got a fat salary over here for doing them a favor. Because they're in high-level government positions, they are able to get taxpayer money, your money, and send it to corporations at rates that corporations could never earn on their own. Go listen to everybody they've told you to hate. Welcome to the Great Awakening, baby.
Hey, I don't knock anybody who's into politics, man. I have a belief that everybody's right to have their own belief system, and I don't judge off your belief system. I'm just saying, when are we going to look and see what have these people done for us? Like you in your life right now, whether it's Democrat or Republican, what have they done for you right now in your life? In 45 years, 35 years, 20 years, they've done nothing. Even with the pandemic, they gave you pennies. Even us essential workers out here working our butts off, not knowing if we're gonna make it home without getting sick, they still look at that as just something we were supposed to do. So you guys, open your eyes up, man, and understand this is not the place for you. This is not where your true happiness is. Quit making happiness into materialistic things, like if you get certain things that makes you happy. And start looking at the full circle of what happiness is, and you'll never find it here. I ain't gonna say never. 8 out of 10 of us will never find it here, because some people are content with what's going on here. And it goes deep, the brainwashing goes deep. But 8 out of 10 of y'all see this stuff and you resonate with it. You know there's something crazy's going on. So let's get right back to these videos.
Why do we have so much poverty in America? I just heard one of the best responses to this question, so you have to watch the video.
Why is there so much poverty in America?
Because many of us profit from it. We exploit the poor in the labor markets, housing markets, and financial markets. Many of us benefit from that exploitation. We design a welfare state that gives the most to families that need it the least. And we subsidize affluence much more seriously than we alleviate poverty. And we build and continue to maintain segregated communities. We build walls around our affluence, and we hoard opportunities behind those walls. And that creates not only pockets of affluence, but pockets of concentrated poverty. So we have to tear down the walls. We found that landlords who are operating in very poor neighborhoods, these are neighborhoods with poverty rates in excess of 27%, don't just make more than landlords in affluent neighborhoods, but make double. They make double. And the reason is their housing expenses are much lower, but rents are not that much lower in poor neighborhoods. And I think that was a real revelation to us. And it opens up both policy possibilities, but also just this idea of, poor folks aren't living in high poverty neighborhoods because that's the only place they can afford. It's not super affordable to live there, actually.
Right.
They're often living in these places because they're the only ones that allow them to live there. Is it better to be a landlord in Soho than the South Bronx? Yes, it is. But in most other cities, think like Buffalo, not Boston, it's actually better to be a landlord profit-wise in poor neighborhoods rather than affluent ones.
We are tired of being dictated to by America. America wants to turn the whole world into an American village. We are not an American village. We are independent from America. And Russia is going to lead that way to demonstrate to the whole world that we don't care about America. We are here at Lomo Dam to say to America, we are showing you a middle finger today. You are on your own and we are not scared of you. We will liberate the whole world through the leadership of Russia. So comrades, never be confused. There are Nazis there in Ukraine who are pushing an agenda that seeks to undermine democracy.
Hey, that is all I have for you guys today. And I hope you saw some of these videos and it clicked something upstairs that maybe, I need to start looking a little deeper and just quit living day to day, month to month, year to year. And before 40 years go by and you realize you really haven't made any moves or did anything that truly makes you happy. This is not the place for it. We've just been brainwashed to think it's the place for it. And it is the place for it if you're a certain person. But those people don't look like us. So just understand that. And I want to thank you guys for coming in and enjoying the video. And if you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate you guys because I know I'm just starting out, but I'm going to be dropping much content in these next couple of days. Some of it's going to be about America, but some of it's going to be all kind of different subjects I talk about. I'm just going right off what goes on in my mind and what I think about, all right? So I want to thank you guys again for joining me. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and hit that bell button so you get all the notifications when I drop new videos. And I'll see you later now, all right?
Hey, this that homeboy Young Stunner, a.k.a. that Boss Hog. I made this track for all the most sucker fuck ass niggas out there thinking they hard. Hey, this what you tell them motherfuckers here. What's up, my nigga? 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 Where your gun at, nigga? Where your pistol at, bitch? Where your gun at, nigga? Where your pistol at, bitch? What's up, my nigga? 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 Where your gun at, nigga? Where your pistol at, bitch? Where your gun at, nigga? Where your pistol at, bitch? I say Stunner fresh from my head to my feet. Well, pussy niggas talking shit, but I ain't losing no sleep. I got a pistol named Nina, she a freak off the leash. All I gotta say is get 'em and she making you leave. I'm a old country boy, so I ride or die. Take my heat to the club, man, cause bullets might fly. Hit some niggas G's, little nigga, nice try. But I can see the bitch in you when I look in your eyes. Now fuck niggas, snitching coke, real niggas lie. To see some lame niggas ball, to see some real niggas try. I'm a beast in these streets, my emotions ice cold. So I walk like fuck you, nigga. Fuck what you done sold. Some do what they gotta, some niggas do as they told. Some niggas let us survive, some ball out of control. Mark D stuck in prison, Lynn died in the road. I'm an April 3 stunner, bitch, act like you know. What's up, my nigga? 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 Where your gun at, nigga? Where your pistol at, bitch? Where your gun at, nigga? Where your pistol at, bitch? What's up, my nigga? 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 Where your